I've got one portion out there and barely a third of the next.
You just pulled that from under there, chef. You threw that under there. I gave you enough leaks. You trying to clown me up in here right now.
Come here, you.
You trying to sabotage me.
Really? Where?
You set me up. I'm steady bringing you.
Who set you up? Bullshit. Get out. You haven't got it. You know that.
I do have it.
Get out.
Hell's Kitchen has a special way of dealing with people who think they're untouchable. You can blame your teammates, you can ignore the judges, you can even talk back to Gordon Ramsay. But sooner or later, the kitchen exposes you. Because in this competition, being arrogant or making excuses won't help you succeed. Karma will catch up to you, and when it does, it's often very public and funny to see. Some chefs were all talk, but actions speak louder than words. And when karma finally arrives, the fall is loud, public, and can be extremely satisfying to watch. Every single one of them learned the same lesson the hard way, and no one learned it faster than a chef who spent an entire season blaming everyone else for his own failures. Matt Hearn from Season 16 is perhaps one of the most controversial contestants from Hell's Kitchen Season 16. This is a chef whose refusal to ever say "I was wrong" became his undoing. Matt arrived on Season 16 with confidence, maybe too much confidence. From early episodes, it became clear that Matt was not interested in learning or teamwork. When dishes failed, when service faltered, Matt didn't examine his choices or take constructive criticism. He went on the offensive. Teammates and fans alike began to notice his pattern. Blame everything and everyone else while insisting his methods were superior. That approach might have worked in some competitive arenas, but not one where Gordon Ramsay is your constant mirror of critique. In one early dinner service, the red team was losing ground, and Ramsay tried to pinpoint whose dish was at fault. When Matt was asked about raw scallops, instead of owning his mistake, he pointed fingers at a teammate, insisting someone else was responsible and telling the chef to check the cameras. It was a bold and ultimately foolish move, and Ramsay made sure Matt knew it, forcing him to uncross his arms and cook properly or leave. Matt didn't just struggle with food, he struggled with feedback. When world-renowned chef Christina Wilson bluntly criticized one of his dishes, Matt responded with insolence rather than reflection, asserting that the judges ran burger joints and didn't know what they were talking about. Fans watching at home saw that not as fiery confidence, but as blind arrogance, refusing to accept even the most seasoned critique. His infamous meltdown came during the Creative Sliders Challenge. While every other chef made a dish that fit the brief, Matt decided he wanted to blaze his own trail, preparing shrimp rolls and arguing about what defined a slider. Rather than listen when the judges explained their perspective, Matt doubled down on stubbornness, defending his interpretation and dismissing the panel as incompetent. His refusal to adapt cost him crucial points in the challenge. Dinner service, often the make-or-break moment in Hell's Kitchen, was where Matt's story fully unraveled. Tasked with cooking lobster tails, he overcooked them badly, a rookie mistake given how seafood precision matters. Instead of admitting error, Matt blamed teammates for not helping, claiming there was no communication when others were clearly nearby. His teammate Kimberly finally cut through the pretense, telling him bluntly that everyone else owned their actions, so why couldn't he? But the real hallmark of his downfall came after Gordon called him out for constantly pointing fingers. Chef Ramsay explained that every time something went wrong, Matt's instinct wasn't to reflect, but to defend and deflect. When faced with that reality, Matt responded in a moment that went down in Hell's Kitchen infamy. After being eliminated, he threatened Gordon Ramsay, saying that if they met on the street, he'd beat him up point blank.
If I was on the street right now and he came up to me with that same shit, I'd fuck him up point blank.
Whether exaggerated by emotion or genuine, that line cemented Matt not just as a bad loser, but as someone who refused to grow, and it made his elimination one of the most talked about in the show's history. Matt's arc is a clear demonstration that in Hell's Kitchen, you can be talented. But if you're unwilling to listen, adapt, and grow under pressure, the kitchen will humble you. His refusal to listen to anyone but himself was the source of his downfall. Just like Matt, let's move to another chef whose downfall was rooted in a similar refusal to take ownership, but with a very different twist. In Hell's Kitchen Season 8, Russell Cook stood out early not just for his cooking ability, but for his explosive temper and domineering leadership style. Unlike Matt, Russell wasn't consistently at the bottom for technical mistakes. In fact, he often excelled in challenges and advanced deep into the competition because of his skill in the kitchen. However, where Russell excelled with a knife, he struggled with people. Right from the early episodes, Russell's approach was aggressive. Rather than cultivate teamwork, he often micromanaged and chastised teammates, barking orders and making statements that created tension. Fellow contestants frequently bristled at his attitude, with comments suggesting he was more focused on being right than building cohesive service. Episodes throughout Season 8 show Russell constantly questioning and criticizing the decisions of others, both during prep and service. He pushed his teammates to move faster, to execute exactly how he wanted, and when mistakes happened, he was quick to respond with sharp words rather than supportive guidance. His leadership style was less chef and more dictator, which tends to work poorly when coordinated execution is everything. Russell's competitiveness, mixed with a volatile temper, reached its peak in the final dinner service. Both he and fellow finalist Nona Sivley were tasked with leading their hand-picked brigades through service, a last test of culinary skill and leadership. Russell's approach was pushy and combative, exacting high standards but failing to nurture or motivate his team in stressful conditions. When the final results were announced, Nona was declared the winner. It was one of the more dramatic moments in Hell's Kitchen history, not merely because Russell lost, but because of how he reacted. Instead of graciously accepting defeat, Russell unleashed frustration that felt straight out of a pressure cooker. Declaring that he was pissed and not happy at all, Russell blamed his entire team for his loss, despite having chosen them himself, saying they helped him lose. He even threatened to blackball his own brigade in cities where he worked, vowing that they would never get a job where he worked again.
I'm pissed. I'm not happy at all. I chose the team that I wanted, and I thought they would help me win, and in fact, they helped me lose. So, thanks a lot, guys. You will never get a job in any city I work. I'm gonna definitely blackball you guys, because you guys fucked me so royally tonight.
The backlash was immediate. Fans and critics alike labeled Russell one of the sorest losers in Hell's Kitchen history because of the way he refused to take any responsibility for his own leadership flaws. What should have been remembered as a hard-fought finale instead became defined by a meltdown that overshadowed his skill and left a lasting impression for all the wrong reasons. Russell Cook's downfall ended with anger, threats, and zero self-reflection. He walked out convinced the world had wronged him, not realizing that Hell's Kitchen had simply exposed what was already there. If Russell was a ticking time bomb, Elise Harris was a psychological war zone. From the moment Elise stepped into Hell's Kitchen Season 9, it was clear she wasn't there to make friends. She was there to survive, and she was willing to burn everyone around her to do it. Almost immediately, Elise positioned herself as the loudest voice in the room. She challenged teammates, argued with authority, and treated confrontation like a survival tool. But unlike chefs who clash once or twice under pressure, Elise made hostility her default setting. Season 9 quickly became defined by Elise's behavior. She talked down to teammates, rolled her eyes at instructions, and regularly escalated minor disagreements into full-blown shouting matches. Even sous chef Andy, someone contestants typically fear, became a target of Elise's disrespect. Instead of focusing on food, she focused on control. And while her cooking was sometimes strong enough to keep her afloat, her attitude poisoned the red team almost instantly. By episode 4, nearly the entire team wanted her gone. During nomination discussions, Elise's name came up again and again. You'd think it's probably because she can't cook, but no, it's because no one trusted her. Cooperation in Hell's Kitchen isn't optional, it's survival. Elise made it impossible, yet somehow, week after week, she stayed. And that's where the resentment grew. Elise didn't just survive eliminations, she manipulated them. Her most infamous move came when she convinced fellow contestants to turn on Jennifer, one of the few chefs who openly stood up to her. Elise framed it as a strategy, promising loyalty if others protected her. It worked, temporarily. Jennifer was blindsided, betrayed by chefs she thought were allies. Viewers watched Elise weaponize fear and desperation, turning the black jacket phase into psychological warfare. But the thing about manipulative strategies is that they collapse under real pressure, and Elise finally cracked during a crucial black jacket challenge. Luckily, both Jennifer and Elise returned in Season 17. Tasked with executing a dish under intense scrutiny, Elise made a basic mistake that shocked even her critics, blending the potatoes into a thick, gluey paste that was completely inedible. As the judges watched her unravel, Jennifer stood on the sidelines, barely hiding her satisfaction. When Gordon Ramsay eliminated Elise, it wasn't dramatic shouting or rage, it was cold, final, and devastating. The woman who had terrorized the kitchen all season walked out defeated, while Jennifer, her biggest victim, watched her downfall with visible relief. For many fans, it was one of the most satisfying eliminations in the show's history. That elimination cleared the way for the final showdown, and Michelle Tribble seized the moment, winning the season. And in a poetic twist, Elise was forced to work under her in the final service. Watching Elise take orders from someone she once belittled was already satisfying, but when Michelle won, and Elise broke down in tears, it cemented one of the most complete narrative arcs Hell's Kitchen has ever delivered. The bully didn't merely lose, but she did so to the people she once tried to dominate. Ultimately, Elise Harris fell because no amount of talent can compensate for her level of toxicity, and the kitchen made sure she learned that lesson twice. By the way, if you're enjoying our content, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more untold stories of your favorite TV celebrities. Your support really helps us grow. Now let's get back to our video. And if Elise was manipulative and cruel, the next downfall came from someone who didn't even try to hide it. Sabrina Brimhall wasn't just selfish, she bragged about it. Season 8's Sabrina entered Hell's Kitchen young, confident, and convinced she was smarter than everyone else. From the very first episode, she ignored team instructions, pushing her beef Wellingtons to the pass before the garnish was ready, deliberately throwing teammates under the bus. When Gordon Ramsay confronted her, Sabrina played innocent, but the damage was done. Instead of learning from that moment, Sabrina doubled down. During nominations, rather than defending herself, she attacked others, calling teammates washed up, useless, or beneath her. At one point, she even insulted Nona Sivley, a chef who would eventually go on to win the season, dismissing her cooking as fried chicken. She might justify her actions and label it as a strategy, but that's just plain cruelty. What made Sabrina especially hated was her open admission of manipulation. She wasn't pretending to be misunderstood. She openly said she sabotaged others to stay safe. When teammate Gail struggled during service, Sabrina deliberately withheld help, then smiled as things fell apart. In confessionals, she bragged about being manipulative, unaware that she was documenting her own downfall. Even more damning was how she treated the few people who showed her kindness. Melissa, who disliked Sabrina personally, still stepped in to help her during service because the guests mattered more than personal drama. Sabrina returned that kindness by attacking Melissa later and insulting her during nominations. It was the moment many viewers stopped hoping for her redemption. As services went on, Sabrina's cooking didn't improve enough to justify her attitude. She made repeated mistakes on the fish and meat stations, then deflected blame immediately. Each time Gordon Ramsay pressed her for accountability, she shifted targets. Eventually, even Ramsay, known for tolerating strong personalities, had had enough. When Sabrina was finally eliminated, Ramsay didn't scream. He didn't throw plates. He delivered one of the most cutting dismissals in Hell's Kitchen history, telling her she had a lot of growing up to do, inside the kitchen and outside. It wasn't just about food anymore. Sabrina walked out stunned, not angry, not defiant, just exposed. The manipulation stopped working, the excuses ran out, and for the first time all season, she had no one left to point at. Sabrina Brimhall's exit closed the book on one kind of Hell's Kitchen villain, the openly manipulative saboteur who smiled while others burned. But as satisfying as her downfall was, it came from someone who at least wanted to win. The next downfall on our list came from a contestant who barely wanted to be there at all, and made sure everyone else suffered because of it. If Sabrina weaponized ambition, Lacy D'Angelo weaponized apathy. From the very first episode of Hell's Kitchen Season 5, Lacy made one thing clear. She did not belong in that kitchen, and she did not care to try. While most contestants walked in talking about dreams, discipline, and proving themselves to Gordon Ramsay, Lacy immediately began complaining about the heat, the pace, her teammates, and even the competition itself. Instead of adapting, she resisted, and that resistance became her defining trait. Unlike contestants who struggle quietly, Lacy vocalized her misery constantly. She dragged her feet during prep, avoided physically demanding tasks, and frequently claimed she was overwhelmed whenever things got tough. Her teammates noticed quickly. In a competition where teamwork is survival, Lacy became a liability almost overnight. It wasn't that she was weak, she was simply unwilling. What truly turned viewers against Lacy was how often she threatened to quit. When challenged, she shut down. When criticized, she sulked. When pressure increased, she openly asked to leave. Ramsay, who has seen chefs break under stress for years, gave her chances, far more than many others received. But instead of using those chances to improve, Lacy leaned harder into avoidance. Her worst moments came during dinner services, where she routinely failed at even basic tasks. Teammates had to step in to finish her stations while managing their own. When confronted, Lacy deflected responsibility, insisting she wasn't cut out for this kind of environment, as if the competition itself was unfair rather than her preparation lacking. By mid-season, her team wasn't just frustrated, they were exhausted. The breaking point arrived during a dinner service when Lacy was assigned to the meat station, one of the most critical roles in the kitchen. Under pressure, she made a confession that stunned both Ramsay and viewers alike. She admitted she didn't know how to properly cook meat in any capacity, especially not in Hell's Kitchen. In a competition for a head chef position, this was beyond incompetence. It was on the level of disqualification. Gordon Ramsay didn't explode. He didn't insult her. He did something far more devastating. He ended it immediately. Mid-service, he pulled Lacy aside and eliminated her on the spot.
Get out! You're not good enough! Piss off! Madam, look at me. Let's be honest, you're done. You can't waste my time any longer.
I agree.
Give me a jacket and leave Hell's Kitchen. And go in there and say goodbye.
Effectively granting the exit she had been asking for since day one. There was no ceremony, no drawn-out deliberation, no dramatic pause, just a quiet acknowledgement that she never belonged there. For fans, it was one of the most relieving exits in the show's history. And it's not as though Lacy was cruel. It's just that she represented something Hell's Kitchen viewers despise more than arrogance, lethargy. Her downfall wasn't sudden. It was ultimately inevitable. And when it finally came, it felt less like punishment and more like closure. But while Lacy's exit was about apathy, the next downfall was far more complex and far more ironic. Because Joy Parm didn't quit all season until she did. Joy entered Hell's Kitchen Season 12 as one of the strongest chefs in the competition. Talented, confident, and vocal, she quickly established herself as a leader on the red team. She spoke passionately about perseverance, accountability, and never giving up. In confessionals, she framed herself as someone who stood for strength under pressure. And for a long time, her performance backed it up. But there was one problem Joy never addressed: honestly, favoritism. From early in the season, Joy formed a tight alliance with fellow contestant Kashia Knight. Friendship alone isn't unusual in Hell's Kitchen, but Joy took it further. No matter how badly Kashia performed, Joy defended her. When other chefs were nominated for elimination over smaller mistakes, Kashia was shielded. When criticism arose, Joy redirected blame. And when teammates pushed back, Joy turned aggressive. This double standard didn't go unnoticed. Viewers began calling Joy hypocritical, a chef who preached accountability but practiced nepotism. She demanded perfection from others while excusing failure in her closest ally. As the competition narrowed, resentment grew. But Joy wasn't merely playing favorites, she was actively undermining team morale to protect her friend. Still, Joy survived and thrived until the moment everything unraveled. During a crucial dinner service late in the season, Joy made a mistake on fish. When Gordon Ramsay called her out, it wasn't with unusual cruelty. It was standard Hell's Kitchen pressure, the same pressure she had watched dozens of chefs endure. But instead of correcting the mistake or fighting through it, Joy snapped. She argued back, became emotional, and then did the unthinkable. She quit on the spot. In the middle of service, with a black jacket within reach, Joy walked out of the kitchen. Ramsay didn't beg her to stay. He simply watched her go, and later called it one of the most disappointing exits in the show's history.
Can I finish cooking, chef?
Hey, young lady, if you're in the mood, don't take it out on my food.
I'm done.
You're done.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Boy, stop.
I'm done with this shit.
What a selfish attitude. One thing wrong and you run away.
I'm trying to tell
No, you're not telling me. No, you're not. You're arguing. You're arguing, you're shouting.
I'm done.
Hey, I know you're done. It shows in your cooking.
Okay, fine.
Get out.
For viewers, the moment was shocking, and it's not like chefs don't break. But Joy had built her entire identity around not breaking. The woman who condemned weakness couldn't handle criticism. The chef who protected others from elimination couldn't protect herself from pressure. Her self-elimination contradicted everything she claimed to stand for. Joy didn't lose because she lacked the talent, but because she quit, the very thing she criticized others for. After the emotional spectacle of Joy Parham's self-elimination, the next chef wasn't about giving up, but about disrespect, denial, and one of the most shocking mid-service exits in Hell's Kitchen. That contestant was Gavin, a chef whose trajectory on the show perfectly illustrates what happens when ego becomes louder than execution. Jen first appeared on Hell's Kitchen in Season 4, 2008, and in many ways, she was everything the show thrives on. Confident, outspoken, and determined. Early in the season, she even managed 5 consecutive service victories and was considered one of the stronger competitors, eventually placing 4th overall. However, from early in Season 4, her personality trends made it clear she was not just competing against the food, she was competing with the kitchen itself. She argued with teammates, challenged assignments, and frequently inserted her own judgment into situations. At one point, after Chef Ramsay criticized her signature dish for having raw rice, she snapped and famously called him a butthead for the remark, a sign she viewed the critique as a personal attack rather than an opportunity to improve. Throughout her first run, Jen's issues weren't solely about skill, they were about attitude, a refusal to fully accept instruction, frequent defensiveness, and a habit of talking over others instead of listening. Not only did she challenge her teammates, but she also challenged the authority and the kitchen's rules. Even after her elimination, Ramsay acknowledged her inconsistent performance and attitude, noting that a great chef needs consistency not only in cooking, but in behavior. But Jen's story didn't end there. Years later, Hell's Kitchen brought her back for Season 18's Rookies vs. Veterans format, a chance for returning competitors to prove they had grown, matured, and learned from their past. In theory, this redemption narrative could have been powerful. Instead, it turned into one of the most dramatic collapses the show has ever seen. From her first moments back in the kitchen, it became obvious that Jen's attitude had not mellowed. In early challenges, she struggled with basic teamwork and communication, at one point clashing with teammate Ariel Contreras-Fox over a beurre blanc critique, showcasing that her defensiveness under pressure was still very much intact. But the pivotal moment, the one that sealed her downfall, came during a dinner service in Season 18 that erupted into a full-blown confrontation. While preparing garnishes, Jen became convinced that something in her mise en place was wrong. When Ramsay tried to address the issue, she exploded, accusing him of sabotaging her station on purpose. In her mind, it wasn't that she had misread the order or mistimed her preparation. She believed someone was trying to embarrass her. That accusation was not a mild complaint. It was a direct challenge to Ramsay's professionalism and integrity, and it occurred in the middle of a service, in front of teammates, sous chefs, customers, and cameras. As soon as she alleged sabotage, Ramsay's expression hardened. Minutes later, he told her to remove her apron and leave the restaurant through the front door, marking one of the most abrupt and shocking eliminations in the series. He didn't wait for deliberation, nominations, or voting. Her behavior had left him no choice. She was out.
I've got one portion out there and barely a third of the next.
You just pulled that from under there, chef. You
Come
threw
here.
that under there. I gave you
here.
enough leaks. You trying to clown me up in here
Come here.
right
Hey,
now.
come here, you.
No,
Hey,
you trying to sabotage me.
Really? Where?
You set me
Where?
up. I'm steady bringing you
Who set you up? Bullshit. Get out. You haven't got it. You know that.
I do have it.
Get out.
The moment was satisfying to many viewers because it underscored a fundamental rule of Hell's Kitchen. Respect the kitchen, respect the process, and respect the people who set the standards. Jen's refusal to take responsibility for mistakes, her explosive reaction to critique, and her accusatory tirade against Ramsay crossed a line most contestants never approach. Once that happened, the outcome no longer felt like a question of if, but when. As seen with most of the other downfalls, her exit was not about her cooking, but about the way she responded to pressure, to leadership, and to criticism. However, just when we thought we'd seen almost every type of downfall this show could produce, there was Andrew, one of Hell's Kitchen's earliest and most unforgettable collapses. Andrew's story reminded viewers that confidence without competence is an equally fast road out the door. Andrew Bonito arrived in Season 1 with 10 years of kitchen experience and enough swagger to fill the dorms. He talked back to Ramsay, dismissed criticism, and carried himself with a brash confidence that made for compelling television early on. But beneath the bravado, his performance was inconsistent from the start. His signature dish was famously dismissed by Ramsay as absolute dog shit.
That is absolute dog shit.
Throughout the season, Andrew survived elimination nominations and rubbed teammates the wrong way. He refused to take responsibility for mistakes, clashed with fellow chefs, and even openly argued with Ramsay during service. One noteworthy moment came when a critic's card flagged poorly executed crab risotto, and instead of owning the error, Andrew challenged Ramsay in defense of his dish, dismissing the kitchen's problems as something other than his own. By the time the competition reached the final 6, it was clear that Andrew's confidence had become a liability. In a pivotal elimination, Ramsay confronted him about a puree component that under-delivered. Andrew argued his point, only to be reminded that in Hell's Kitchen, excuses don't win meals or titles. Andrew had 3 chances to save his life, Ramsay said, and like they say, 3 strikes and you're out. His exit was dramatic. Andrew literally handed back his jacket, briefly argued that he had more integrity than results, and left the kitchen in shock over his elimination. What made his downfall particularly enjoyable for fans wasn't just the cooking mistakes, but that his own attitude, the arrogance he never quite checked, played a central role in his departure.